What's poppin', y'all? It looks like Plaqueboymax and FaZe Banks, the Jilted Lovers. Is it? Yeah, Jilted Lovers. I think that's the right term. Looks like they're going back and forth again, and this all stemmed from Plaqueboymax's emotional outburst during one of his streams where he slaps the camera upside the head. And FaZe Banks, he does his weekly show, or I think it's multiple times a week, where he covers a lot of things in business, markets, as well as streaming and these different industries. And he would respond to this.
I do from my heart, soul, this on God, bro.
Oh man, that's brutal. That voice crack in there, like, listen, I don't know why anybody would think I would enjoy something like this, a situation like this. Max is a very young kid. He's an extremely talented kid, and he's an extremely passionate kid. If there's one thing I'll always give Max credit for, I despise the kid at this point. I think he's extremely disrespectful and ungrateful, but I feel heavily for him in this. I would never wish this type of thing on my worst enemy. Obviously, he's being like bullied into the ground about like the diva tattoo and the piercings and the hair and all that, and the thong song. And you know, it's a lot of weight to carry. And I wish him well, and I'm praying for the kid. And I understand. I truly wouldn't wish this shit on my worst enemy.
So, brief backstory in less than 15 seconds. FaZe Banks, he brings Max into FaZe. Max leaves FaZe before everybody else. He's still helping him behind the scenes. And then when everybody else leaves FaZe and they throw Banks under the bus as a villain, Plaqueboymax comes back in to cloud chase off of the situation and stomp on the neck of FaZe Banks for absolutely no reason. And FaZe Banks, he would reply and show everything. So, the fact that FaZe Banks is even capable of giving praise to a Plaqueboymax just goes to show a lot about this guy's character. He's like, man, you know, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Really? I'd wish that. I'd wish that on somebody that's, you know, an average enemy, let alone worst enemy. I wish a lot of pain on my worst enemies. I mean, I don't even have enemies, but I imagine if I had one, yeah, I would wish a lot worse on them. So this guy's like, yeah, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. But Plaqueboymax, he would reply to this, and Silky, who is a friend of his, who is also a former member of FaZe, but funny enough, Silky has been mum about the issue. Like, he hasn't talked too much about the FaZe stuff because, frankly, he realized that they did everything for them, they benefited, and that was that. But Max would reply.
FaZe Biggs reacts to Plaqueboymax breaking down on stream due to the hate he's been receiving. I despise this kid at this point. Like, why? Wait, why does he despise you?
That voice crack in there, like, listen, I don't know why anybody would think I would enjoy something like this, a situation like this. Max is a very young kid. He's an extremely talented kid. And he's an extremely passionate kid. If there's one thing I'll always give Max credit for, I despise the kid at this point. I think he's extremely disrespectful and ungrateful, but I feel heavily for him in this. I would never wish this type of thing on my worst enemy. Obviously, he's being like bullied into the ground about like the diva tattoo and the piercings and hair and all that shit, and the thong song. And you know, it's a lot of weight to carry.
I swear I don't understand the problem.
I wish him well, and I'm praying for the kid. And I understand. I truly wouldn't wish this shit.
I was gonna wonder when the
tattoo.
I got diva on my ribs.
So who cares?
Nah, it's just a thing where like I do a lot of that I think make people mad. It is what it is, but I'm aware of this. Like, it's just part of who I am. But
right.
He's like, there was something that happened on stream where I got frustrated because like it's one thing for a random person to hate on me, but then if
a friend,
if it's somebody that is like feel like they're part of my community or they're a friend, or because I look at my friends as friends,
right? Like random people who cares, but when it's like somebody that you would take,
so I'm not gonna lie, I let to me, which you never should do, chat. If you never show your weaknesses, but I did, and then I guess it went viral or something. I'm not gonna lie, so he reacted.
You know what the craziest thing about this is Plaqueboymax doesn't even address any of the positive comments that were made about him by FaZe Banks, where he's like, yo, I think he's a really talented guy. I think he's a really hardworking guy, this and that. This guy's paying him compliments when you tried to ruin his career. You tried to dogpile on Banks and make him seem like the worst guy on earth when all he really did was get these guys a deal and help blow them up further. And then even for you, he had no interest in your career monetarily, and he was helping you behind the scenes. But Max just talks about, what does he talk about? Him, which is the criticism. And he's like, yeah, you know, you're never supposed to get emotional like that. And I just see these guys as my friends. Like, you shouldn't care about what the world thinks, but like, if you're fans, I see these guys as my friends. That's your problem. Those people are not your friends. And they probably felt like that in the beginning of, or he felt like that in the beginning of Plaqueboymax's career. And they felt like that too, because they were kids. When he was like, what, a college student, 19? Yeah, those guys are like 15, 16, 17. They're parasocial. Now, a lot of your OG fans, they're college students, and they don't think they're your friend. You are their entertainment. So it's get on and entertain. And they're also going to entertain themselves, if they're still involved in your community, by chopping it up with each other, and clowning you is their way of entertaining you. And one thing that Plaqueboymax should take into consideration when people are making fun of his thong song and diva tattoo and all this other stuff is that when you are under attack, that's when they'll mobilize and defend you. Like when they mobilized against FaZe Banks, when you used them to do that and he had done nothing to you. And also when they mobilized against academics, when you guys had that thing in between you guys because one of your mods was in a call with academics and they were speaking very, very, very inappropriately towards the kid. So your whole audience mobilized against academics at that point. So they really do rock with you. But keep in mind that earlier, one thing that FaZe Banks had said in the past was that this guy has the biggest ego ever. He thinks he's the center of the universe, and he thinks he's Travis Scott. And when you really look at this, he didn't even say, yo, I really appreciate you looking out for me like that. Or, yeah, despite our differences, I appreciate him making comments about me. No, because he just wants the praise. Or he feels that he's due the praise. He's like, yeah, he just glosses over it. And Plaqueboymax, this guy might be no Playboy Cardi. This guy might be a narcissist where he's like, yeah, praise, that's normal. I should be getting that. I don't need to address it. I don't need to thank somebody for it. And if he has any vitriol or any enmity towards FaZe Banks, what would it be for? Especially at this point in time when that was kind of like an olive branch where he's like, yo, I can't stand this guy. And that's also another thing that he harped on. He's like, oh, he can't stand me. Why would that be the case? That's the thing. Like, Silky's playing stupid too. Like, I would say that Silky didn't do anything bad or negative to FaZe Banks. He just said like, yo, that FaZe situation, that stuff was messed up, and the deal, just talking vaguely about it. So Silky should understand why FaZe Banks wouldn't mess with Plaqueboymax, because Plaqueboymax, he specifically focused on FaZe Banks as an individual and not just the organization, the shadow organization above them. And FaZe Banks wouldn't point out Plaqueboymax in this next segment, but he's one of the people he's talking about, and that's streamers that hate their job.
All these streamers are miserable. I have some information for all of you watching. They'll never admit it. Every single streamer who streams consistently hates it. They hate it. They hate their communities. They're terrified of their communities. They have such a weird and toxic relationship with their fan bases and their chats and Twitter, etc. And they pander to them constantly. It's why you see people gatekept and blackballed who like Twitter will dogpile on or dislike, and people will embrace people that they hate and pretend to be friends with people that they hate because Twitter likes them. If the chat's spamming L mom, it could be your mom on stream. They're spamming L mom, that is never coming on stream again. And that's just how it works. That's what it is. If your chat's telling you the sky's red, the sky's red. And if you say it's blue and that viewer number starts to drop off, you'll switch it up real quick and the sky's red. It's horrible.
A lot of streamers fall under this, but he's specifically talking about Plaqueboymax too, and also Jason the Ween, because remember when Jason the Ween had his whole girlfriend and then the relationship fell apart, and then now he's been secretly dating her for months and trying to hide it, instead of just saying like, yo, that's my girl, she never actually cheated on me, y'all fall back, and it's going to be what it's going to be. That's it. But he's not going to do that. He's on the run now, and they're just stalking them, and the parasocial behavior increases because now they're like, oh, you're trying to lie to us? Say less. We're going to figure it out. And they did figure it out. But Plaqueboymax also falls under this because if you guys recall, he had a girlfriend that loved him so much and she was there by his side while he was at the hospital, but he dumped her because a compilation video was made about her being on all these other streams with all of these other rappers as well in situations that didn't make him look the greatest. And other people like Zeus and Bilu were like looking at each other like, oh, this is who he's dating? And that was enough enough for Plaqueboymax, and he admitted it. He's like, yeah, I dumped her because y'all bullied me to, even though I really liked her. And then the situation that happened even before that last year, like I said, with Academics. So his mod is like 15 or whatever. Academics has that situation with him, and then because at that point in time, Max's chat and the Twitter in general, they felt like, yo, Academics, he's got to be out of here. Plaqueboymax cuts off Academics and makes this statement where he's like, yo, like, that's weird. Like, I can't mess with somebody that does that weird stuff. And then what happens months later? And this was after, they're both from Jersey. They were cool before that event happened. And then that event happened. Obviously, this is a huge fallout. And then they get back cool, and he has Academics back on his stream. If you didn't like Academics' behavior and what he exhibited there, then you wouldn't have him back regardless, because the behavior didn't change. The only thing that changed was the temperature of the general public and the temperature of your own audience. Your audience was willing to have Academics back on your stream at that point in time, 6+ months later. Even though Academics got banned permanently on Twitch and is still permanently banned on Twitch because of the event that happened with Plaqueboymax's mod, and that getting blown into like one of the most viral things on the internet during that time period. So FaZe Banks is pointing at Plaqueboymax and saying, you are the biggest victim of this. And I think he is stressed. And I think that was a manifestation of his frustration, where I've said this a long time ago. I was like, Plaqueboymax was happier when he was getting 2,000 to 3,000 viewers in his parents' crib. Guarantee you. You could say he's more lit now, he's got more money, but if you strap him up to a lie detector test and ask him that question, it will come up as true, that he was happier when he had 2,000 to 3,000 viewers versus now the guy constantly probably has an anxiety attack before he goes live, hoping what the hell his community is going to think of him. And an example of streamers also being bullied or like forced into changing things up because of their audience is Yana, for example.
I'm no longer gonna sing because every time I open my mouth, here come the critics. Oh my god, if she just had a little bit of training, but right now she's so mid. I know! Leave me alone! Like, who said I was the best singer ever? Nobody! I'm like, what the hell, bro?
So with her, she's a very talented singer, great singer. And then now she doesn't want to sing on stream anymore because of the critics. Because people are always going to be like, well, you could be better and this and that. And this is why I somewhat understand how militant people like Valkyrae and Pokimane were. Like, female streamers, I feel like we're in Gen 2 of female streamers right now. Generation 1 of female streamers, they were so, well, you could say Generation 0, Patient Zero is like the female gamers that were vicious, like Sniper Wolf. Generation 1, you would say, is like Pokimanes and Valkyraes, where they were militant with their chat. Like, all these chicks, if there was anything even remotely critical, joke, it could just be a joke, you were banned. So this was an echo chamber of praise and adoration. So when they start to see criticism on X now, when their clips go viral, they're like, whoa, where's all this hate coming from? Why do they hate me? It's because they've been insulated from any balanced opinion, even though they are going to get more hate on X. But with Ayana, for instance, she's stuck here, and Plaqueboymax is somebody else that stopped making music on stream because he was getting too many opinions, or people were starting to call stuff trash, and he starts to doubt himself a little bit, which I do think it's healthy to make music off stream, because you are not meant to make music with thousands of people giving you their input, and you don't know what the hell their credentials are. And it somewhat forms a little bit of a hive mind. Like, saying that's amazing is not going to get the hive mind in chat going like, yo, this is buns, what were you thinking? However, you probably should have played them Thong Song as like a snippet before. And they would have let him know that, yeah, this shouldn't have been dropped. But let me know what y'all think in the comments. Was Plaqueboymax a little bit rude to not acknowledge the olive branch that FaZe Banks was handing out to him? I mean, it's not really a full-on olive branch, but he could have at least been a little bit cordial instead of dismissive about it. Let me know. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. And I'm going to see y'all on the next one.